Is the return of Boris Johnson really that guaranteed? Now, I did a live stream just this morning, and I laid out my case. I think this sound, this shock and awe campaign that Boris supporters have been launching for the past couple of days is nothing but that. It's nothing but sound and fury. I do not think that Johnson has the numbers. I think what you saw this morning with Johnson having a meeting with Sunak, trying to do a deal. Well, what deal is there really to be done? Because if Boris Johnson and his supporters have the numbers like they say, then why are you trying to do a deal? Because what I think what Johnson was trying to suggest to Sunak was come in, I'll be deputy, you be prime minister, but also I want these other key figures in the cabinet as well. And I think that was the deal breaker. Because I think maybe Sunak could have lived with Johnson in a position of almost no responsibility, being sort of, deputy prime minister. It gives all the glitz and glam, but none of the responsibility that Johnson really craves. So you could sort of bring him into the party and sort of bring the Boris supporters in, but effectively he'd have no power. But what I think went too far and why this deal failed was because Johnson wanted to bring other key supporters into the Sunak cabinet. Because if you've really got the numbers, and I think this is what has happened, prove it. And I think that's what Sunak has done. I think he's called Johnson's bluff. And we'll find out tomorrow whether Johnson really does have those numbers. But here are just some other reasons why, if somehow Boris Johnson gets re-elected, oh boy, are we going to have a world of problems. So before we get into those problems, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button down below. There is also the YouTube subscription button as well, where you get to join the Pony Club, which helps support the channel, and you get bells, whistles, and whatnot when you get support the channel that way. And of course, as always, thank you very much to everyone who does help support the channel, even if you do just hit the like and share button. So, what are some of these reasons why, well, essentially, Boris's return would indeed hurt the party? Well, first of all, his return would absolutely split the party. That is not a probability. It is absolutely that it would. Remember, all 50 government ministers and aides all resigned, saying that they could no longer back him. And now, why on earth would that block of those people return? Why would they go back to supporting him? At the end, most Conservative MPs and voters thought that he should go as well. And if he were to return, why is that going to change? Why are they all of a sudden going to change around that? He hasn't changed because, as someone has said, he suddenly just decided to tuck his shirt in. The Tory party is in a almost dire position. It's got an absolute economic, catastrophe situation that it's got to try and sort out, and it's about 30 points behind the polls. Boris Johnson is not going to save the party. It is going to split the party even more. It could probably even destroy the party, with some threatening to walk over to Labour or just trigger by-elections in their own constituencies because they do not want to serve again under Boris Johnson. So the next, of course, is about Partygate. And oh boy, because this is all about the role that Boris Johnson played in those parties and Partygate, and the worst is yet to come. We have heard that there have been huge documents, evidence, emails, WhatsApp chats from all sorts of people, and this the evidence that has been put forward from one source has said that he could be gone by Christmas if he was reinstated. That's how damning these documents have been. And already people like Dominic Raab have told him to think again about this comeback, because if he comes back in and then this, the investigation gets him, that could leave the Conservative Party in an even worse situation. So that could get him again. And the third, of course, as we said before, the economic situation is not good. The markets are not going to respond well to Boris Johnson, because Johnson is not one for, well, fiscal discipline. Remember, there were a lot of conservatives towards the end of his reign saying that Boris Johnson was not a conservative when it came to spending, that he was spending too much money, that he needed to cut back. Jonson is not the type of person you need right now in charge of this economy. It would not make sense for him to put it back. He could essentially destabilize the situation even more than it already is. And sort of the final one really is press and public opinion. The right-wing press are not exactly behind Jonson, if you've seen. They're not really that enthused about him coming back because, again, of the Partygate stuff, the fact that it would split the party, and the fact that, again, he is not really good for the economy. Even if he got a good chancellor in, it's not a plain sailing, shall we say. And Boris's sort of promises that he made in 2019, especially about leveling up and all this stuff, were all about throwing around the cash. And that's what Jonson desperately wants to do. Again, go in and start throwing around cash, start trying to fulfill those promises. And not only that, but in itself, the public is not behind a Boris Johnson comeback at all. So those are certainly the trials and tribulations that Boris Johnson would have to face if he came back. But I can't see him coming back because all those reasons in itself, mainly the Partygate investigation, because we have heard that apparently the worst is yet to come in this Partygate investigation. So Partygate, if you remember when it was at its height, was massively damaging, not only to the Tories, but to Johnson himself. And all that melodrama is going to get played out again, especially in the next couple of weeks, because that all kicks off in November. So trust me on that one. I think from what we've been hearing, Jonson is well and truly gone, just on that Partygate inquiry alone. But yeah, the idea that you want Jonson back as PM, no way. No way. That's why I think this is all, from the Jonson campaign, it's all sound and fury. If Jonson really does have the numbers, well, okay, prove it. Prove it on Monday. Why would someone who has the numbers be so desperately going around to like Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt to try and do deals? That doesn't sound like someone who has the backing of over 100 PMs, 100 MPs to get on the ballot. He doesn't sound like it. But we'll find out, I probably think, very soon about if he really has those numbers or not. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a website station called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, let me know what you think down below. Is it generally just a shock and awe campaign orchestrated by the comeback Boris campaign, or do you think there is something more to it? Like I say, let me know down in the comments below. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.